I've had some strange things happen to me in my life, but nothing like this. My house vanishes every midnight. It all started when I was driving home from work one night. The sky was clear and there wasn't a cloud in sight, yet the streetlights were on. I thought it odd, but didn't think much of it. But then I noticed something strange about the light. They weren't shining very brightly. In fact, they seemed to be dimming, and that's when I realized it wasn't just the lights. Everything around me seemed to be getting dimmer. At first I assumed my eyes were playing tricks on me. Or maybe I had hit my head harder than I thought when I fell off the ladder at work that day. But as I drove on, I could make out the houses becoming darker and darker. The bright lights in the windows turned to dull embers. People's front doors, which had been welcoming and inviting, now appeared to be gaping maws ready to swallow anyone who entered. Even the moon in the sky seemed to dim, replaced by an unnatural darkness that blotted out the stars. It was as if someone had flipped off the switch on the world, plunging it into an abyss of black. Then suddenly, just as quickly as it had started, it stopped. The streetlights snapped back on, their brilliance almost blinding after the darkness. The houses regained their inviting glow, and the moon returned to its rightful place in the sky, shining down with its soft, gentle light. I blinked, wondering if I'd imagined the whole thing, but the lingering chill in the air and the unsettling feeling in my gut told me that what I did experienced was all too real. I continued on to my house, each street becoming brighter and brighter until I arrived at my own front door. I stepped out of my car and walked up the path, still shaken by what I'd just witnessed. As I reached for the doorknob, I glanced back at my car. That's when I noticed it. My car, which had been silver, was now matte black. It looked like someone had taken a can of black spray paint and gone to town on it. And not just the car, everything around me had changed. The warm and inviting house I'd come home to for the last 5 years was now a dark and menacing structure. Its windows were vacant, eye sockets staring out blindly into the night. The front door, which had always been painted a cheerful blue, was now a gaping maw of pure black. I stood frozen in place, unable to comprehend what I was seeing. I tried to rationalize it away, telling myself that it was some kind of elaborate prank. But deep down, I knew that this wasn't funny. This was my house, or at least it had been, but now it was something else, something sinister. And the worst part was I couldn't remember any of this happening in my life before. As the seconds ticked by, I forced myself to break free from the paralysis that had gripped me. I needed to get inside, to find out what had happened to my house, to my life. With shaking hands, I fumbled for my keys and unlocked the door. Inside, everything was the same. My furniture was in the same place. My pictures on the wall were in the same spot. But it was like a scene from a horror movie, empty and lifeless. There was no sign of my wife or kids. Had they been here at all, or had they never existed? I wandered through the house, touching the same surfaces that had become so familiar over the years. My fingers traced the contours of my couch, ran along the banister of my staircase. Each touch sent a jolt of electricity through me, confirming what I already knew. This wasn't my house anymore. It was a replica, a hollow shell of what had once been a home. And as I stood there in the middle of my now empty house, I couldn't help but wonder what had happened to me. Where was my life? Why did I feel like I'd lost something without ever having had it? Was this really my house? And what was the terrifying truth behind its disappearance every midnight? The questions swirled in my head, but there were no answers to be found. I was trapped in a never-ending loop, reliving the same moments over and over again, searching for a glimmer of hope, a sign that I would ever get my life back. But all I found was darkness. The days that followed were a blur. I couldn't sleep, eat, or concentrate on anything. All I could think about was my house, my life, and the unnerving feeling that I had somehow lost both. Then one day, as I was poring through old photo albums, I came across an image that stopped me in my tracks. It was a picture of me and my wife standing in front of our house on the day we moved in. As I stared at the photograph, a sudden realization washed over me. This wasn't just a picture of my house, it was a picture of me in another time, a time before everything had changed. I felt a surge of hope. A belief that if I could just find a way to go back to that moment, I could fix whatever had gone wrong. I became obsessed with the idea, spending hours trying to figure out how I could possibly travel back in time. I read everything I could get my hands on about time travel, spoke to anyone who claimed to have expertise on the subject, and though most people dismissed me as a crazy, I found a few who were willing to lend a helping hand. Together we explored every possible avenue, every theory, and finally, we hit upon something that seemed promising. We developed a machine that would allow me to send a part of my consciousness back in time. It was risky and dangerous, but I was willing to try anything at this point. I prepared myself mentally and physically, knowing that what I was about to do had never been done before. There was no guarantee that it would work, but I didn't care. I was desperate to get my life back. I stepped into the machine and activated it. The world around me dissolved into a swirling vortex of colors and sounds. I felt myself being pulled back to a time when everything was still right. Then, just as suddenly, it stopped. I opened my eyes and looked around. I was in my house, but it wasn't just any house. It was my house. I could feel the warmth of the sun on my skin, hear the laughter of my children echoing through the halls. I was home, but my joy was short-lived. As soon as I stepped outside, I knew something was wrong. The sky was filled with an eerie green glow, and the trees were swaying violently in the wind. A low rumble shook the ground beneath my feet, sending a shiver down my spine. That's when I saw it. In the distance, a massive wave was crashing toward the shore. It was unlike any wave I'd ever seen before, and it was heading straight for my house. I turned and ran, but it was too late. The water was rising, crashing over me and sweeping me away. As I struggled to keep my head above the water, I saw my house disappear beneath the waves. It vanished into the churning depths, taking my life with it. I surfaced, gasping for breath, only to realize that I was in the same spot where I'd started my journey. The sky was clear, the trees were still, and the ocean stretched out before me, calm and inviting. But I knew the truth. The ocean had taken my house, and it wouldn't give it back. I looked down at my hands, which were shaking violently. What had I done? Why had I messed with forces beyond my understanding, and why did my house vanish every midnight? Now, you might be asking yourself, why didn't he just stay in that other time? Well, you see, there was a price to pay for every action, and in my case, the price was my sanity. By going back in time and changing things, I had inadvertently caused the destruction of my own universe, and now I was stuck in a liminal space between two realities, forever doomed to wander the earth without my house, without my life, without my memories.